Then Jesus came from Galilee to John at the Jordan to be baptized by him. John would have prevented him, saying, "I need to be baptized by you, and do you come to me?" John's question is natural. Baptism was for sin. Apparently, Matthew, the author, had some question about the propriety of Jesus being baptized. This may have been a problem for the church. After all, he was the Son of God and sinless, so why should he be baptized? Matthew answers the implicit question with the words of Jesus to John, "It is fitting for us to fulfill all righteousness." We think righteousness has to do with morality only. Righteousness is doing what is right. But more precisely, righteousness has to do with that which is proper. Thus, Jesus says to John, in effect, we should do the proper thing. That is the primary motive for most baptism, I suspect. Many parents bring their children to the church for baptism because it is the proper thing, the thing to do. After all, we have been taught that children have to be baptized. So if this were what Jesus meant, it would seem a good reason enough. At least it was good enough for Jesus and John. Whatever Jesus' motive or yours, God often does use the event of baptism in his own peculiar way. And that is what we mean by sacrament. God using earthly elements and events to bring about his purpose. So it is reasonable that in this season we should examine baptism as epiphany. Epiphany involves making something or somebody known, showing the meaning and purpose. In the baptism of Jesus by John, we discover who Jesus is and what he is to do, and who we are and what we are to do. In medieval art, there are literal depictions of Jesus' baptism. Jesus stands waist deep in the water of the Jordan. John is on the shore with a seashell pouring water over Jesus' head. The water is often poured in such quantity that Jesus appears to be robed in a cloak of water. And over Jesus' head there is a halo with a dove descending from heaven upon him. This is the clue as to who Jesus is. For if we listen carefully, we hear, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased." And hearing that, we remember the words of the prophet Isaiah, "Behold my servant, whom I uphold, my chosen, in whom my soul delights." 3 words reveal who Jesus is: Son, servant, chosen. The freight of these words carries largely of Old Testament understandings. But through the centuries, the Christian church has used them to speak of our Lord. Son refers to the person to whom the king gives authority and power. An Old Testament example is David and Solomon. When David's reign comes to an end, David indicates one of his many sons as his successor, and thus Solomon becomes, in a larger sense, the son of David. And in Psalm 2, Israel is called Son of God. God has named Israel, as he was to name Jesus, through whom the world would be ruled. We are sons of God. For in our baptisms we have been named collectively and individually as those persons through whom God manifests his lordship in the world. In this context, then, it is not inappropriate to speak of the church and its members as children of God. Servant is another word with a rather specific meaning in the Bible. Isaiah used the word to describe the function of those chosen by God. Jesus was to say later, "I have come not to serve, but I have come not to be served, but to serve. The term servant describes an attitude, self-effacing, tender, concerned with the needs of the weak and oppressed, willing to give of self for the other person with no loud proclamations. The servant's work goes on until he has filled the earth with the knowledge of the Lord. The New Testament depicts Jesus as a servant who gave his life as a ransom for many, but also suggests that such an attitude would be characteristic of anyone baptized into the fellowship of the church. Another biblical image of a servant is that of the slave. According to a custom as old as the human race, a sign on the forehead has been given a sign of belonging. Slaves, especially, often had such a sign branded on their foreheads. It told who their owner was. In the sacrament of baptism, the sign of the cross is made with oil on our foreheads to show we are the possession of Jesus, who suffered, died, and conquered on the cross. By our baptisms, we have become servants of God. The Old Testament roots for the chosen one are in the people of Israel, who understood themselves as the elect of God. God has chosen Israel and the church to be his people. You are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's own people. Jesus is such a chosen one, and so are we. Called, gathered, enlightened, and sanctified as the one holy Catholic Apostolic Church, the servant of the world, the chosen of God. Baptism, then, is an ordination. Jesus was ordained to be the Son, servant, and chosen one. And in our baptisms, we are ordained to represent Christ and his church as sons and servants in the world. We still make the mistake of talking about the ordained as though the word referred exclusively to bishops, priests, and deacons. But we are all ordained ministers if we have been baptized, for baptism is ordination. Some have been set apart for special ministries, as bishops, priests, and deacons. With every ordination, there is a commissioning, a way of carrying our sonship and servanthood as the chosen ones of God. The second lesson today sketches the way Jesus carried out his commission. He went about doing good and healing all who were oppressed by the devil. Doing good refers to the whole story of Jesus as told by the gospel writers. His teaching in the Sermon on the Mount, his healing of many who were lame, blind, deaf, or dumb, and his suffering and death on the cross. In all his deeds, Jesus was doing good. Isaiah's description is to bring forth justice to the nations. We hear justice with 21st century ears. For us, justice is what properly belongs to a person or people. But Isaiah is not talking about human rights. He's not talking about freedom of speech or freedom to own a gun, freedom to have trial by jury of one's peers. The word justice, as we use it today, does not appear in the Bible. The word translated justice in Isaiah means the knowledge of how to worship. The true servant will make clear that God is Lord. He and she will show people how to revere their Creator. That is the task of all ordained ministers. And our Lord Jesus did this by doing good. Neither the blindness nor the imprisonment of which Isaiah speaks are to be taken as specifics. They stand for all suffering, natural like blindness and death, as well as suffering inflicted by people like imprisonment. God called Jesus when he was baptized into his servant, and gave him a ministry to perform, to do good, and to teach that God is Lord. In our baptism, God has given us a commission to represent Christ and his church, to bear witness to him wherever we may be, and to carry out Christ's work of reconciliation in the world. Jesus' baptism was an epiphany, a making known, and so should our baptisms be an epiphany. Our baptisms can be epiphany, making God known because of our crucified and resurrected Lord. He is the source of our baptismal life. In him, we are sons and daughters, servants and chosen people. Thanks be to God.